What's up, guys? Today I want to talk about diseases that are preventable by vaccines. You would think that since there's a way that we can stop ourselves from falling ill to these diseases, that this shouldn't be any concern. But that's just not the case. I stumbled on this map created by the Council of Foreign Relations showing where some vaccine-preventable diseases were happening. The surprising thing about it is that this map shows data from 2008 till now, meaning there are a lot of cases still prevalent today. We have measles represented by burgundy circles, mumps in brown, polio in orange, and whooping cough in green. These diseases are found everywhere. In Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in North America, in South America, in Antarctica. Okay, maybe not Antarctica. So what are these diseases and how do we stop them? Measles is a respiratory disease caused by a virus. Symptoms include a fever, a runny nose, a cough, and a rash all over the body. Worldwide, there are estimated to be about 20 million cases and 164,000 deaths each year. Measles spread through the air by breathing, sneezing, and coughing. It is so contagious that a child that is exposed to it and not immune to it will probably get it. The measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, or MMR vaccine, is the safest protection you can give your child against measles, mumps, or rubella. Children should be given the MMR vaccine shortly after their first birthday. The second dose should be given right before kindergarten. Mumps is a contagious disease caused by the mumps virus. Most common symptoms include a fever, headache, muscle aches, appetite loss, tiredness, and the big one, swollen glands. Mumps is best known for the swelling of the cheeks and jaw. Again, the MMR vaccine is the prevention. Polio is an infectious disease caused by a virus that lives in the throat and intestinal tract. About 3/4 of the people infected will have no symptoms. The other quarter will have minor symptoms, similar to the flu. Less than 1% of polio cases result in permanent paralysis of the limbs that can lead to permanent disability and even death. There are two types of vaccines that can prevent polio: inactivated polio vaccine, or IPV, or oral polio vaccine, OPV. Only IPV has been used in the United States since 2000. However, OPV is still used throughout much of the world. Children should be vaccinated with 4 doses of inactivated polio vaccine, which is spread out between the ages of 2 months and 6 years old. Whooping cough, known medically as pertussis. Whooping cough is a respiratory tract infection. Whooping cough disease starts like the common cold, with a fever, runny nose, a cough, but after 1 week, severe coughing can occur. For the best protection against whooping cough, children need 5 doses of DTaP, which, like the inactivated polio vaccine, is spread out between the ages of 2 months and 6 years of age. Now, these are just a few of the vaccine-preventable diseases. Diphtheria, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, rubella, yellow fever are a few more of many. Now, after the description of the 4 vaccine-preventable diseases that I discussed, I should probably state the obvious. I am not a doctor, just someone regurgitating information I got from the CDC website, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. There will be a link down below so you can browse other diseases and the vaccines that go with them. So why are people not getting vaccinated? We talked in class a bit about health communication, where what people know and think affect how they act. That knowledge is necessary, but not sufficient enough to produce most behavioral changes. So the questions are, do people know enough about these diseases? Do people feel threatened by these diseases? And then there are those myths floating around that keep people away from vaccines. So the World Health Organization published an article that addressed some of these myths. Myth number 1, better hygiene and sanitation will make diseases disappear, so vaccines are not necessary. False. Better hygiene, hand washing, and clean water can protect us against infectious diseases, but many infections spread regardless of how clean we are. Myth number 2, vaccines have several damaging and long-term side effects that are yet unknown. Vaccinations can even be fatal. This is false. Yes, you may suffer from a sore arm from a needle, but you're far more likely to be seriously injured by a vaccine-preventable disease than a vaccine. Skipping down the list a little bit, myth 6, giving a child more than 1 vaccine at a time can increase the risk of harmful side effects, which can lead to overloading the child's immune system. Again, this is false. There's no scientific evidence that says that vaccines have any issue on immune systems. Now, the biggest, and probably the one we hear the most in the media, thanks largely to that incredibly knowledgeable talk show host, Jenny McCarthy, is myth number 10, vaccines cause autism. This is false. A 1998 study raised concern of a link between the MMR vaccine and autism. It was later found to be flawed, and the journal that published it withdrew it. And now there's literally no source for this myth. So there are some myths debunked about vaccines, and the complete list will be provided below. Now, if we look at why people are not getting vaccinated on a larger scale, most of these diseases are in poor countries. Bill and Melinda Gates run a foundation that is dedicated to improving the quality of life of individuals around the world. They send out an annual letter discussing the progress they're making. This year's letter discusses diseases and vaccines. Gates talks about the 3 myths that block progress for the poor. The second myth is one I want to talk about, which is that foreign aid is a big waste. First, I want you to take a guess at what percentage you think the US spends on foreign aid each year. And then after that, a different well-known bill will give us the answer. Are you ready? Okay, let's take a look.
So there are a lot of myths associated with health, with world health. Well, as a science educator who fights myths, I've spent some time looking at the data. It's remarkable. We can see how, we can see why kids are dying, and we can see how to prevent it. Well, people perceive that the US spends a lot on foreign aid, that if the US budget were $1, a quarter of it is spent on foreign aid. But that's not true. It's less than a penny. It's 0.8% of the federal budget. You can't even cut a coin small enough to represent how much money is spent on foreign aid. It's not that much. Now, this idea that wars or natural disasters, tsunamis, earthquakes kill most of the people, that's wrong. It pales, it's dwarfed by the number of people killed by preventable diseases. This sector represents the number of kids 5 years old and younger that die every year from injuries. This represents the number of kids 5 years old and younger that die every year from non-communicable diseases, cancer, things you inherit. But all of this, most of the circle, is kids dying, 5 years old or younger, dying of communicable, preventable diseases. This is where we can change the world. People think that we've been sending money to Africa for decades and nothing's improved. Things are as bad as they ever were. Well, that's a myth. When you can show statistically that child mortality's gone down over the last couple decades by a factor of 2, been cut in half. Those are the data. We have a real opportunity to leave the world better than we found it, to dispel these myths and move on to improve the quality of life of people everywhere. So let's prevent the diseases. Let's address a preventable disaster.
Thank you, Bill Nye. Now, that 1% he was talking about is a lot of money. $30 billion to be exact. $11 billion of that goes to health-related things, like vaccines. $19 billion goes to building roads and schools. But Bill Gates puts it into perspective with this. It's about $30 for every American. So imagine the income tax form asks, can we use $30 of the taxes you're already paying to protect 120 children from measles? Would you check yes or no? These are some of the organizations that the $30 could be going towards. Gavi Alliance, which since 2000 has immunized 440 million children against vaccine-preventable diseases. Polio Global Eradication Initiative, which since 1998 immunized 2.5 billion children against polio. So the vaccines are working, the aid is working, yet these diseases are still around. Knowledge is power though, so the more people that know about these vaccines and diseases, the better the world will become. I'd like to end this on a quote by Melinda Gates. Whatever the condition of people's lives, wherever they live, however they live, we all share the same dreams. Thanks for watching.